The gentleman yields. I now recognize Ms. Clarke from New York for her 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank our ranking member. Good afternoon, and thank you to our witnesses for appearing here today, and to our bereaved mothers, you have my deepest condolences. Earlier today, my colleagues discussed Republican opposition to providing CBP much-needed resources in the FY 2023 funding bill. But that isn't the only time Republicans have opposed resources to secure our border. In October, President Biden sent Congress a supplemental funding request for FY 2024, which included an additional $13.6 billion for border security. It would provide an additional 1,300 Border Patrol agents to work alongside the 20,200 agents already funded by the requested FY 2024 budget, 375 immigration judges, teams to strengthen the immigration court system, 1,600 asylum officers to speed up processing of asylum claims, 1,000 CBP officers with a focus on countering fentanyl, new detection technology for ports of entry, more immigration detention beds, additional investigative capabilities to combat fentanyl trafficking, and $600 million more in grants to help communities receiving migrants, among other investments. As Secretary Mayorkas and bipartisan members of the Senate are in negotiations to get these much-needed resources enacted, House Republicans are just absent. Instead, they are focused on impeaching Secretary Mayorkas. Professor Pearlstein, do impeachment resolutions change policy?
No, ma'am.
Do they provide resources or authorize funding?
No, ma'am.
Even if House Republicans attempted to impeach Secretary Mayorkas is successful, the Senate would have to convict. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's true.
And how many senators are required to convict the secretary?
Conviction requires 2/3 of the Senate.
After a conviction, what happens next?
The person would be removed from office, and the president has the opportunity to appoint someone new.
The secretary would be removed, and for a period of time pending confirmation of a new secretary, another official would serve as acting secretary. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would that individual be obligated to execute the administration's policies?
Yes, he serves at the pleasure of the president.
So functionally, nothing would change.
That's correct.
If instead, House Republicans decided to negotiate and pass the president's supplemental appropriations, what effect would that have on resources and policy?
Congress could pass laws today that have enormous effect, not just on the availability of resources, but how those resources are allocated. So if Congress is unhappy with, for example, where officers are placed, Congress can impose conditions on existing funds that require the president to do something different. If they believe that the president or the secretary is not complying with those laws, they can challenge them in court, and that's exactly the process that's been playing out in recent years.
Very well. Mr. Chairman, Republicans have a choice. They can continue to pursue this sham impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas, which will change nothing, and in fact could slow down efforts to address challenges at the southwest border, or they can work with the White House and bipartisan members of the Senate on legislation to improve border security and reduce drug trafficking. I urge my colleagues to get back to work for the American people. And with that, I thank you and I yield back.
The gentlelady yields. I now recognize Mr. Strong for his 5 minutes.